Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg as the Winnipeg Jets lose. They lost. They lost their 11-game winning streak by a score of 2-1 to the Nashville Predators. And we're going to be here to break it all down. We're going to start with a little highlight, low light. We're going to go into a breakdown of the game. We're going to talk about some themes going on, and then we're going to have some trade deadline talk in the third period before we get into our overtime, where you can ask me any questions you would like. My name is Brendan Labarre, and if you would like to support the channel here, the easiest way to do it is to like this live stream and to comment in the chat. Comment after, subscribe. Subscribing is a great and easy way to support us. But before we get that, let's get into our highlights of the game. I think it's pretty easy to say. I think we're peeking a little bit here. I think it's easy to say a big highlight of this game has to be number one, Eric Comrie. I think Eric Comrie came in on the back-to-back with travel and played behind a team that was maybe not as rested as they could be. And I think he came in and did quite a spectacular job behind them. I think Eric Comrie was easily a highlight of the game. You think about those penalty, the reason it was a one-goal game is because on those penalty kills, he did such a great job making just spectacular saves. There was the one in the first from Forsberg to O'Reilly going the top to high to low, making those really long, making those really big saves. And then there was the other one on Forsberg in the the third period, where he just got a cross crease pass and he just made another huge save, getting across, making that toe save with his toe, with his pad there. Just a beautiful job by Eric Comrie. And then when it comes to maybe a low light of the game, I think it's easy to say like the offense you kind of would have liked a little bit more from the team in terms of shooting. But honestly, I think the top line was especially really good in this game. They're really good at forechecking. The third line really started some momentum in the third period. The fourth line did their best. And I think if I had to say someone maybe had a little bit of a weaker game on the offensive side, I'd because we could say Logan Stanley. We'll get into that, but we could say that a little bit. But I think Nikolai Ehlers, especially in the third period, he struggled a little bit to just find the plays, make the plays. There was a time at the blue line he tried to dangle through a defender where it just didn't really quite work out. He tried to draw past Aiden Fleury where he just missed him completely. It just seems like things weren't clicking for the man, and that's okay. You know, he's a great part of this team and someone that we really appreciate. So just, highlight Eric Comrie. Then it wasn't, I wouldn't call it Nikolai Ehlers' best game on the season. And with that, let's get into our main kind of first period stuff here. And just a reminder that this is not just my show, it is also your show as well. We have the chat box right here. If you type away something in our chat, you will appear on the screen, and when we can talk about whatever you guys would like. But before that, let's talk about Hyperdrive Hockey. Shift into Hyperdrive and get ready to have some fun with your new source for all the biggest stories in hockey, bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that'll drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Friday for your fill-in on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon. And while you're subscribing to things, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Winnipeg right here, right now. All right, and with that, let's kind of start breaking down the game. So so the Jets come out in this game. Yesterday they were playing in Ottawa. They had to come all the way down to Nashville for this one, changing time zones, going across, kind of going to the middle of the heart of the USA here, kind of making that long flight. It's not like they're going from Philadelphia to New Jersey. They're going from Ottawa to Nashville, if you catch my drift. And they just come out flying. They did a really good job coming in, not looking tired at all. I don't think they looked too tired at all this game, considering that they played last night against the Ottawa Senators. I didn't watch too much of that game. I was sleeping. We're a little sick here today. And with that, they're coming out, they're creating chaos. Oh, hey, SGA Sports Talk. Glad you could join us again. CGA Sports Talk was all over this channel on Monday. Glad he could join us again for this one. So the game starts, and the Jets come out flying. They're going, they're shooting, they're causing some chaos. I thought the top line was really well, doing a really good job of that. And the third line, of course, always doing a good job with Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter. And then, of course, you're putting on the Jets. You're, no pun intended, you're doing a great job. You are kind of putting it to the Nashville Predators. And then, of course, they score the first goal. This one comes with you're lining up on the draw. It's Ryan O'Reilly on his strong side, Adam Lowry on his weak side, and just a little bit of a win back from O'Reilly to Gustav Nyquist, pushes it over to Forsberg, and he just whips a quick shot through a bunch of bodies. You can't really blame Eric Comrie too much on that one, I don't think. And then the Jets just keep going. They keep possession. They kind of keep this drive going. And then they keep it going to a point where Pionk is able to score a goal. And this one comes off just a great forecheck. If you watch the replay back, this one comes off of Iafallo. And the Jets' forecheck has been so good all season. A reason why they're able to kind of create chances out of these chaos is Iafallo comes in, he cuts the Nashville defenseman off behind the net. And then, oh my gosh. And then he comes in and cuts the Nashville Predators defenseman off behind the net. And then he is able to, chip it off to, Erasmus Kapari, and then whip it up to Neil Pionk. And Neil Pionk was able to just send a knuckle puck down to the net to score the goal. CGA Sports Talk says, can we do a Predators vs Sharks postgame show on 3/11? I'll have to check my school schedule, but maybe we can make that happen. Predators vs Sharks. What an interesting battle at the bottom there. All right. And then we have, they come in there, and then Iafallo, coming off that great forecheck, comes in, and he just is able to trip a guy. And that kind of gives the Nashville Predators a power play. And like we said, on these power plays, Eric Comrie comes out, making a bunch of saves, doing a great job. He's on his back. The puck's just hitting him. And then Lowry just loses a battle behind the net after Neil Pionk kind of pushes it towards him. And then, what's his name? Long Italian last thing, Evangelista, something like that. He's able to just push it off to the other Baron, Justin Barrett, and kind of knocks over to Tommy Novak and goes into the net. Just a little bit of chaos in front of the Jets net that just results in a goal. And those things are going to happen over the course of a hockey game. So it's 2-1 for the Preds. And then they start off the second period, and they are they're struggling to get on their zone. They can't get up. SGA Sports, how are you? I'm doing all right. You know, we're kind of getting over a little bit of a cold here. How are you doing today, man? Really appreciate you coming back onto the show here. Just helps keep the conversation going. And then the Lowry line kind of gets out there, coming off of that kind of rough start. And then the Lowry line is able to just start pushing. They're in the offensive zone. They're chipping around, moving around, doing those things. And the Jets are able to carry that momentum over for a few shifts. Like the first line comes out, keeps it up. Second line comes out, keep it up. Especially that first line shift where they're able to just keep going, create a bunch of just opportunities off the cycle. And then after that, Logan Stanley kind of has a series of misfortunate events. He kind of makes a pinch that makes a poor 2-on-1. Then he takes a penalty off of a cross check, just goes into the guy's hips. And then he trips the guy, it doesn't get called. And it's just a series of events where you're looking at and you're like, in the playoffs, hopefully the Winnipeg Jets don't have those kind of things happen, because those are the things that can cost you. Like, this is a 2-1 game. If that power play or if the second trip led to a power play that will lead to a goal, that could be such a gonna check this. Whoa, okay, we're back. Thank you. I don't know how long I wasn't talking for. Okay, we're back. Don't know what happened there. Thank you for saying no audio. Didn't check the thing. Definitely had audio to start. Okay, so Yeah, and then we kind of go start the third period. Thank you for pointing that out. I wasn't watching the audio bars there. Something kind of fizzled out there for a moment. And then third period, back and forth, nothing really happens. Pionk gets an interference penalty. And then the one that Jets luck ran out, Terry says, rerun it. Don't know where I was at, where it kind of faded out there. So we're just going to kind of keep powering through. Terry says Jets luck ran out. Yeah, especially in that kind of final few moments. Terry M, you got to think like you're kind of sitting there. You're kind of used to them getting that goal at the end. You're like, okay, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. An icing, that Ehlers chance at the end. And you're like, okay, where's it coming? Where's it coming from? Didn't get it. That's okay. And then, Fife, I was just saying with the league's best power play. We're going to talk about that in the second period just in a moment. And then Pionk gets a penalty. And from there, Eric Harmer has to make just a flurry of big saves. And then he makes that huge save on Forsberg, the one in the cross crease. The physicality picks up. And unfortunately, the Jets aren't able to score that winning goal. And they aren't able to get back in this one, and they snap their 11-game winning streak. I would say that that's passive voice. The Predators snap their 11-game winning streak. And all right, let's go into the second period. In the second period, we're going to talk about the power play, like Fife said, what's going on with the league's best PP. They are like 0 for 16 now at this point, which is pretty incredible considering how they're basically 1-3 on the season. And so with that, if you're looking for ways to help an upstart media employing over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, if you have a few spare bucks kicking around, you can head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/the Game Over Network. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. And also, if you don't have any money like to send on the show, just feel free subscribing, liking the stream. Those things just really help build the show. Just a free way to support our program here. All right, so let's talk about the power play. They were 0 for 12 coming to this game. Crazy, especially since they've won their last 11. And I think a big part of that, you look at their 5-on-3. I want to talk about the 5-on-3 really briefly. I didn't see the 5-on-3 yesterday. I've been a little sick. I wasn't on the show yesterday, the crossover with Ottawa. And I was really hoping, basically I had 5-on-2 and couldn't score. Yeah, because the guy broke his stick. And so they're on the 5-on-3, and they do one thing I hate, and that is when we're going to break the fourth wall really quick here. No, let's do this. Okay. They're on the 5-on-3, right? If you're listening to on the podcast, you cannot see this. We're just going to erase some stats here. This is from the game on Monday night. And I hate when, and I know a lot of teams do this, you are on oh my gosh, this is just, we're making a thing. I'm going to redraw this net so it doesn't look like, yep, that's better. Okay, this is the zone, right? Did the Jets fail to score on 5-on-3 against the Sens too? Yeah, they did, apparently. I didn't watch the game. I wasn't able to. I was a little sick, but they didn't. And I absolutely hate when they go like this. Left wing, right wing, center, or in this case, it's Velarde. Let's just do it like it is. Velarde, Ehlers. This is Scheifele. And then they go 44, 81. Because this is a completely different setup than what they do at 5-on-4. And do you know what they do when they are 5-on-4? They score. It's almost automatic. And I don't understand when they have one less guy, shouldn't that open up more lanes in your attack? Doesn't it make sense that when you are out there and the less bodies they have, the more ways you can open up things? And what this series does too is one of the things that makes the Jets power play so good is that they have this guy. The difference between last year is they have Nikolai Ehlers. Nikolai Ehlers on the power play, his greatest skill, the thing that he brings that they didn't have last year, is that when he's out there, he moves and he pulls people out of position, and he has a great time doing it. And that pulls people out of position and opens up other guys to score. And when you are standing in this 5-man thing, basically what they're trying to do is cycle it and get a one-timer from Kyle Connor, Ehlers, or Scheifele. And that's not what makes them special. They don't have that big cannon shot. Kyle Connor can pull it out sometimes, but it's not as consistent as a guy like Ovechkin or Stamkos or Laine. Far too selfish on the 5-on-3. They don't pass. Yeah, and they weren't pulling guys out of position. It was just kind of just kind of like going for the cycle, waiting too long, not moving guys around. And when you're not moving, you're not creating that chaos and you're not opening up those lanes. The Nashville Predators today were just able to kind of 5-on-5 and on the penalty kill were able to just sit in their own end and not have to move. And I think when the Jets power play is doing really well, they're cycling it around. Ehlers is pulling guys off. He's making the other Winnipeg Jets move because he's coming into their positions, and that just wasn't happening today. And far too selfish, they don't pass, yeah. And I think when it comes to the power play, we can also talk about some things that kind of translate to their 5-on-5 scoring. Because when the Winnipeg Jets struggle, and this goes back to last year, it's usually because they aren't scoring, or when they don't have the, when it's 5-on-3, why, honestly, Terry, hold on. Terry, look at me. Terry M, look at me. I think you're new to the show. Terry. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know why they do the perimeter all the time. And then what they also do is they really like shrink the ice. And that doesn't spread out the defenders. I don't understand why it is. I would love to talk to someone about why they do this sort of thing. But personally, you would think like when the Winnipeg Jets are trying to score a goal, when they're 6-on-5, they make this like almost like the power play setup, but with Neil Pionk, a second defender. And then when they are trying to get goal 5-on-4, they do the same thing, but without Neil Pionk. And then when it's 5-on-3, they go into the setup where they don't seem to have success. Meanwhile, they're the best. The league's best power play, and I just don't understand the reasoning behind it, especially when the two one-timers down low, Ehlers, who is not the greatest one-timer guy, and Mark Scheifele, are at such off angles that it just doesn't seem to make sense for me personally. Because really, you only have two guys who are just in prime shooting targets, and those are the guys who are above the dots in Morrissey and Connor. Don't understand. And then when it comes to their goal scoring, that seemed to, like, when the Jets struggle, it's because they're not scoring goals, and it feels like today was a lot better, but there's still some times when they kind of settle for some perimeter shots, and I think it was really evident with, like, against the Sharks on Monday. They were down, and what they were doing is they just kept coming in the zone, and they kept passing it back, and they kept on just settling for these point shots. And I think that was less apparent tonight. It snuck in their game a little bit, and I think just the biggest, not proponent, the biggest like offender of that was when you're down 5 minutes, they ice the puck, you win the faceoff clean, DeMello gets it past them Morrissey, and the best shot you can muster is an unscreened wrist shot from the point. And I think that those point shots, a lot of teams are able to generate shots on that when you have a guy like a guy who can absolutely rip it, and I think Morrissey can. But you got to get a guy like Velarde in front, Nino Niederreiter in front. You got to make it difficult for the goalie to see it. Otherwise, you're just puffing smoke into their glove. What else? We have time for one more thing. So we're going to talk about one more thing, wrap it up, and then we'll talk about some trade deadline stuff. We can talk about the Jets forecheck. We kind of did do that. But let's talk about the first line tonight. I think the first line, I was very critical of them on Monday when the Jets played the Sharks, but I thought the first line was a lot better. Kyle Connor, I was specifically critical of. I thought he was better tonight. I thought he had a little bit more fight in his game, especially in the first two periods. And that kind of led to some turnovers. He was using his stick a lot more, just more engaged in the fight. I thought he was just a lot better as a player. And that kind of linked into Mark Scheifele's game as well. I thought he was a lot better tonight too. And then Gabriel Velarde. Gabriel Velarde is like, he's the third man on that line. You know, there's always like a primary guy, and that's Mark Scheifele. I think it's like a Batman, Robin, and then you have an Alfred. And Gabe Velarde is just such a consistent Alfred. And he's so good at just like lingering around, doing some dirty work, and then closing out goals. Such a consistent guy. And I thought he was also really engaged along the boards, really good at winning puck battles and doing some great stuff there. And yeah, with that, let's kind of transition into the third period. We'll talk about some trade deadline stuff. I've been rounding up some rumors and stuff today, and I want to talk about just some avenues the Jets can go down. I won't go too deep because I think this is going to be a common theme throughout this week, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But before that, If you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want some more of this, right? Well, make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure you check the notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and even write a positive review. So yeah, you just click like, click subscribe, easiest way to support our channel. All right, can you explain why there wasn't a penalty when Ehlers got cross-checked? Dude, Terry. Sometimes, honestly, I just think that, sometimes the refs just go by the beat of their own drum. I was really shocked when the Winnipeg Jets got a power play because Nemestikov was tripped, because if you look at kind of how penalties are sorted out, and someone did a study, this is a Dom Luszczyszyn article of The Athletic a long time ago, and he basically made a graph of the amount of penalties the teams took, a graphic of how many teams a penalty took, how many penalties a team took, how many power plays they were given. He made a graph. In that graph, you'd probably think the better teams probably take more. The graph was straight. It was, if you take a lot of penalties, you get a lot of power plays. If you don't take a lot of penalties, you don't get a lot of power plays. And they do this game management thing in the NHL where it just seems like they try to give teams the same amount. And I honestly think it's in their head, they're okay, I'll give you one, you give me one. And you can kind of see both teams got a few power play opportunities tonight. And I honestly think they are just trying to keep it even. That's just usually how she goes. And it's unfortunately ref that way. But it just seems to be the way it is. And yeah. Oh, cross-check. Yeah, no one cross-checked in the face. I think that's what you're talking about, is the one specifically in front. I think that's because, I don't know. Honestly, I think the guy behind him just kind of hit him. He kind of pushed him, and he kind of fell into the guy's stick, even though he was extending. And yeah, I think it was just an unfortunate incident from the guy who hit him. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure which one you meant there, but now I am pretty sure that's what you meant. All right, let's go to the third period. We're going to talk about some trade deadline stuff. All right, so starting with, yes, yeah, okay. So yeah, I think that's just because the initial, it's kind of like the initial incident was the hit, and I don't think they would ever call that. And I think just him falling into the guy's stick was just kind of collateral damage in the ref's eyes. I don't think they would have seen that kind of pump up, and I think that's unfortunate, but that's hockey, baby, I don't know. Doesn't seem like a way to keep the player safe, though. And yeah, let's talk about the Jets trade deadline. And so I've kind of wrapped up some things that were going on today. Some people to think, some teams or some players that people are saying, oh, this would be a good fit, or this is what the kind of rumors are going around. And why I think it kind of is more helpful from the insiders is because these insiders are talking to these teams all the time, especially, they get they kind of get their information in exchange for, they're kind of on the inside and they don't want to look silly. So what they say kind of is like an inside kind of track some of the times. And sometimes a team like Winnipeg, they don't usually have a lot of rumors about them because Chevy keeps things so close to the chest. But if we look at kind of a combination of things, we might be able to sniff some things out. And so let's start with Pierre LeBrun, who said that the Jets are kind of looking at a combination of trading for Evans and Armia, and even went to go as far to say that Joel Armia, a former Winnipeg Jet, is a guy who can fit in your bottom six and play in your top six if you need him to. And I don't think, from my experience of what Joel Armia was as a Winnipeg Jet, and he as a guy who passed through waivers recently, I don't think that's true. And I think that when it comes to that, I think you're more looking at Jake Evans, you're looking at a center. I don't know if that's the high-level center the Winnipeg Jets should be after. I think if you're trying to get those players, both of them for, I think they said the price would be a first-round pick, which I don't really see the appeal of. And I think with those two players in particular, you're looking at, because I think when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets' strength is their depth. They have Alex Iafallo playing on the fourth line. Morgan Barron is out, who is a really good part of this team. And I think that just adding more guys doesn't help you as much as adding a bigger guy at the top and then pushing other guys down. I think that's the only way you kind of improve this forward core, because if you add a guy who's like Yoel Armia and then you push a guy who's like as good as Yoel Armia out, what have you really accomplished? As opposed to getting a guy at the top like a actual second line center and then pushing a guy like I don't know, David Gustafson. Like the trade off from a top second line center to David Gustafson is going to be less than what's his face, Yoel Armia to David Gustafson, if that makes sense. Do you think Matt Hendricks would come out of retirement? Fife says we could really use the veteran leadership in the room for the playoffs. You know, that's something Kevin Sawyer said today on the broadcast, is that the Winnipeg Jets, the one thing they don't have in their room is a Stanley Cup winner. And you know what? I just don't think Matt Hendricks fits that bill. So I don't think he could. You know, good locker room guy, and sometimes when you're good in the locker room, you should stay there. And then what else did I see? During the broadcast tonight, Craig Button said that he wants to see them go out and get an actual second line center and push Nemestikov down a little bit, and he would like to see Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly is a player. I think the problem with Ryan O'Reilly is you look back at the Winnipeg Jets trade deadline acquisitions last year, and when it comes to, and I'm going to link this to what Dreger said, is that Darren Dreger said that they're looking for the best fit, not the biggest name. And I think when you look back to last year, one thing that they kind of got pulled into is they went after like the big names and they didn't look at the skill sets of these guys. And I think when it comes to a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, it reminds me of the Sean Monahan thing, because Sean Monahan, not the best skater, and Ryan O'Reilly's Achilles heel is that he's not fast. He's not the greatest skater. He's not the best mover of like on his feet. And he looked amazing tonight. Ryan O'Reilly was out there and he's a part of every play. But I think when you look at that and you're like, okay, do we want Ryan O'Reilly to be on a line with Cole Perfetti, who's also not very fleet of foot? That might cause some problems in the playoffs, especially when you're like trying to keep up with a guy like Nikolai Ehlers. And then he said Braden Shen and Brock Nelson, and then Terry M says, I want the Jets to trade for Luke Shen. I love Luke Shen. I just love a defenseman who's out there throwing hits and just a smart guy, like not like the Mark Stewart, I'm going to hit a guy, take myself out of the play hit. Just a guy who just doesn't let you get away with stuff like in the corner of your own zone. And I wish he shot left, because I feel like a pairing of Shen and Colin Miller, if Shen or Miller shot left, would be pretty effective. I would do worry about like the $3 million price tag he has as a third pair defenseman, especially going into next year. But I do like that player. That would fulfill the thing of like having a Stanley Cup winner in the room too. And then Kevin Sawyer also said they want someone who's good in the top six and the bottom six, just in case he doesn't work out in the top six. I think any top six player can work in the bottom six, and you just roll more lines. And then one thing I just kind of want to fly out there, is maybe the Winnipeg Jets, you look at their recent trade history, you look at a guy like Gabriel Velarde, the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, and in that trade, they were able to kind of pinpoint guys with certain skills. You look at a guy like Rasmus Kapari, who looks like a very solid fourth line center at this point, and why is he good at that? He's good at faceoffs. He's fast. He's become pretty responsible defensively too, and he's a good forechecker because of his speed. And you look at that kind of pro scouting, that like attention to detail, and you're wondering if the Winnipeg Jets can do like a really sneaky ad, something like the Vegas Golden Knights do, where they look at a player from another team and they're like, okay, he doesn't work because of that system. If they bring him to our system, it's going to work out. Like, you think of a guy like Chandler Stevenson, and he's a fourth liner. He won a cup in Washington, but that's all he was there. He was just a fourth liner. They bring him to Vegas, and they're able to look at his skills, put him with a guy like Mark Stone, and it really just kind of elevated his career to the point where they just couldn't afford him anymore because he was too good. And you're hoping that if the Winnipeg Jets did that with their pro scout, I don't know if their pro scouting is up to, like, does the same sort of, if they had that same sort of philosophy. But I would really appreciate, just a low risk acquisition with the high chance of it working out just based on a guy's skills. And I don't know if that looks like a Jake Evans thing. I'd prefer a little bit younger, like a guy like 24, 25, who can kind of really grow into the role with the team and come in and play next year. But that's the kind of thing I'd like to look at. And if you want to look at a team who does this really well, or besides Vegas, a team that can really look at another team and like notice undervalued players and bring them in for the cheap, I think you would look at not the first place team in the Winnipeg Jets, but the second place team in the Washington Capitals. And if you look at their recent offseason acquisitions, you look at them and you look at that roster, like, how did they get those guys? Guys like a guy like Sonny Milano, who was kind of brushed out of Anaheim, and now he's like a long-term player there. You look at Pierre-Luc Dubois. They had a player that they couldn't use in Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper. He wasn't great there. They fixed that problem by getting a useful player in Pierre-Luc Dubois. You look at Mangiapane, who is, they got him for what, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, and he's been nothing but excellent as a part of that team. Dylan Strome was a castaway from the Chicago Blackhawks. They bring him in, they set him up, and now he's like their first-line center. Lars Eller, a guy they had before, they brought him in really early this season. I don't know if we count that one. That's just the guy they know. But Jacob Chychrun, a guy who's not as valued on their team, but they're able to bring him in and be a really big contributor for that team. And then you look at their goaltending tandem. Charlie Lindgren, he's the reason they got into the playoffs last year. You look at Logan Thompson. Logan Thompson probably should have been the goalie for Team Canada going into the Four Nations face-off. And you just look at a team that is super able to just pinpoint undervalued players and add them to their roster and have them be contributors right away up and down the lineup. And I think that's the kind of thing you got to look for if you're the Winnipeg Jets. Especially since if you can find guys in that 24, 25 age range, none of those guys have no trade clauses because you can't have a trade protection in your RFA years. And I think that would just be kind of the way to go. And I know that's a lot harder because usually teams don't want to part with their 24, 25-year-old players, but just like thinking a little bit outside the box as opposed to just rentals. Like a higher level Morgan Barron, we'll say. All right. And then we're going to go into the fourth period right away. This is the part of the show where you can ask me anything you'd like. You can be about hockey, non-hockey, anything you would like to talk about. You can put in the chat section right over here. And with that, you can just start typing your questions away while I do our last ad read. And what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over Apparel's line has dropped with 3 unique lines, whether you feel the nostalgic pull. Hold on. All right. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, or you want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our live or die by the goalie design, or you just need another cup of coffee to get you, or the toque to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Childs from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now to take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. I'm keeping the what's called, I love the mug. I'm keeping the mug on there. I have 4 of these mugs. All right. Let's see what we got for questions. We have Josh, thanks for coming, Josh. Just look, losing to the Preds after winning 11 straight is the most hockey thing that can happen. Oh, for sure. And especially, like, of course it's the Preds. Of course it's the team that has Barry Trotz. The team that has Barry Trotz, and especially the team that, like, they can't score any goals, and the Winnipeg Jets can't score any goals. That the other, I'm gonna abandon that sentence. That's not going anywhere. The Winnipeg Jets, when they struggle, they can't score goals, and they just found a way to score less goals than a team that can't score any goals. Terry says, I hate when teams give up first rounders for rentals. I think it's valid when you find a really good fit, like what's it called? Paul Stastny, like back in the day for the Jets, just a perfect fit like that. I don't know why they only got him for a first rounder and Eric Foley. Kind of a crazy little deal. Was it also a 4th? Might have been also a 4th. But yeah, it can kind of bite you in the butt. But also, I think that, like, if you're looking to win the Stanley Cup, you don't really mind giving up a first rounder, just because like at the end of the day, is that first rounder going to play for you a long time? You look at the Winnipeg Jets draft picks that have been, like, later in the draft. Now, Brad Lambert's one of them, but Brad Lambert has played like 2 NHL games. or like I guess 6 or 7 now to this point. You think of I like when teams go all in. I do like it. It definitely makes for a funner experience when teams go all in. I also, but like when it comes to first rounders, I personally think if you're talking about your prospects, then your team's probably not any good, and you're probably looking more towards the future than the present. And I especially think that with this Winnipeg Jets team, there's no better year to go for it than right now, especially the way Hellebuck's playing, especially the way like that power play is kind of clicking, and especially with some guy with how many UFAs they have and how their salary structure is going to change, you kind of got to do it. And I also think that when it comes to the first round or like trading a first rounder, um, you can also do it. Like it can be kind of frustrating when your team doesn't do it to acquire the players with term. Like you look at a team like Vegas when they go out and get like Thomas Hurdle, but but there are just some teams where that's all they can kind of do because of the way their salary structure is set up. Josh says, I like when teams go all in. Yeah, it can be very, very fun. And then, especially when it doesn't work out, like you can't blame them when they lose. They did all they could. And I think even when I was reading a book, it was called The Franchise by Craig Custance. And it's about like he sits down with GMs of NHL teams, and he just talks to them. He talks to them, and then you read it, and he talks about their philosophy. And there was a chapter on Julien Brisebois, and so he's talking to him. I don't want to spoil the whole book. This is just a small part. Hold on. When he's talking to Julien Brisebois, he talks about his trade deadline philosophy. And I think when it comes to his when it came to his trade deadline philosophy, one thing he talked about is the 2019 season, the one where they broke all the records, where they got swept in the first round by Columbus. And he said, we didn't do anything at the trade deadline that year because we thought there was nothing we could improve on. And then he really like thought about it, and he really changed his approach. And he's like, okay, maybe we're not going out there and we're getting the big name. We're not getting the guy at the top of the lineup, but what are some ways we can kind of fleece the system almost? It's like, what are ways we can use these trade deadline trades to make an advantage for ourselves? And the way he did that was he went out and he got players that he thought were undervalued for their money. And so he would overpay for these guys and like trade first round picks for a guy like Blake Coleman, who is only making $1.8 million. And he's like, okay, he's worth that to us because his value compared to his salary gives us an advantage. And because he was signed to multiple years, it worked out for them. And then he had the same philosophy with the Barclay Goodrow trade. It was this very same situation where he had a guy with 2 years left, and he was able to trade a first rounder to get this guy. And the years left really kind of attributed to them winning 2 Stanley Cups. And can the Winnipeg Jets do something like that? Like how many rentals have they kept when they've traded a first rounder? They didn't keep Paul Stastny. He did come back though. They didn't keep Kevin Hayes. I don't think they ever were, and they didn't keep Sean Monahan. But are you able to kind of use that salary cap space in a way where you can kind of make your window longer, if you know what I mean? If you can make your Stanley Cup window longer because you're getting a good player at a better deal, and you might overpay for them, but you get them for 200 games. And yeah, with that, there doesn't seem to be any more questions, and so we'll kind of start wrapping up the show here. All right, our next show will be on Friday when the Winnipeg Jets face off against the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm sure that game will be at 6 p.m. because Central Time, because why wouldn't it be? And with that, our show will probably be about 8:45-ish, because about 2 hours and 45 after the show. So just log on to YouTube. We'll be all here. Terry, question? Yeah, shoot another question. Yeah, shoot another question if you'd like. We got time. What else can I say while Terry's typing his question? Yeah, so who are some other guys? What else do I have on here? Yeah, the Dubois trade was nice. Can we repeat that? Can you be like Vegas and get a guy like Chandler Stevenson? We covered all our bases. Yeah, so we're gonna be live on Saturday after the game. How long have you been doing these shows? I just found you in here today. I've been doing these shows since the first game of the season. Me and another guy named Ty. He's not here right now because he is curling in the Briar for Team Newfoundland, and we do these shows after every single Jets game. So we've been doing these shows for about, I guess this is game 60. We've been doing these for 60 games now, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really good. There's one for every Canadian market here at the Game Over Network. If you like these shows, please just like and subscribe. It was great having you here, Terry. I love when people come in and add to our conversation. Just a really nice, just makes the show like flow a little easier. It gets really smooth. So we've been doing this since just October. October it started. Yeah, October this year, and yeah, we grew from about, I think we had 60 subscribers off the bat. Now we're at like 130 ish. So it's been really great for us here at Game Over Winnipeg. Yeah, and Ty and I, we just kind of split the schedule, and it's a great time. All right, and then so yeah, this has been Brendan Labarre for Game Over Winnipeg. Please, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure you like this video, you subscribe to the channel. We are here after every Jets game. Thank you, Terry, for asking that question. Yeah, we do these after every Jets game. If the Jets are on the road against a Canadian team like yesterday, we'll be over on their channel. So if they're playing Toronto, we'll be on Game Over Toronto. Our next one is at 8:45 against Philadelphia Flyers. I will see you there on Saturday.